With more on all of this, let's have join us Bob Cusack, who is the editor-in-chief of The Hill, and Julia Manchester, a political reporter who is also with The Hill. Thanks, both of you, for being with us. Bob, many of the questions revolved around the investigation into Hunter Biden. Several Republican congressmen accused Garland of slow-walking the investigation. Garland did remind them that the first half of the investigation took place under President Trump and testified repeatedly that Weiss had full authority and that Weiss was appointed by the Trump administration to investigate him. Did he make his case very well, do you think?
Well, Elizabeth, this is the beginning of 2024. We're going to see so many back and forth partisan, Department of Justice used to be more respected. Now it's really viewed as a partisan entity, Supreme Court as well. And these entities, these government entities, everything is now so political. But as Joe said, there's no evidence that the White House interfered. There are valid questions of why David Weiss did what he did and reversed himself on the plea deal. And that's what Jim Jordan is trying to find. He's trying to find if the White House got involved. But at least to this point, there's no smoking gun on that.
Julia, Garland was repeatedly questioned about why he recently made Weiss a special counsel. Several congressmen asked him why, if Weiss already had full authority, why he now needed special counsel status. I don't think we ever got an answer from Garland about that.
We never did, Elizabeth, and I think that's one of the big headlines coming out of this hearing, and I think a lot of Republicans are going to pounce on that, saying that there wasn't a clear answer, that he was avoiding that, and I think that's what a lot of Republicans want the answer to. They want to know how this investigation really played out behind closed doors and what considerations were taken and whether there was any partisanship involved in this. But, to Bob's point about how this is what 2024 is going to look like, absolutely. And I think it's also giving us a bit of a sneak peek into what the impeachment inquiry is going to start to look like. In a lot of those hearings, I think you're going to hear very similar questions. It's obviously going to be related to, the Hunter Biden investigation and whether there's any ties between President Biden and, Hunter Biden's business dealings in particular. But that's, I think, what we're going to see.
Perhaps surprisingly, Bob, one Republican did come to Garland's defense during the hearing, and it was Congressman Ken Buck, who's a member of the Freedom Caucus. Not surprisingly, Congressman Buck has criticized this push to impeach Biden without any evidence thus far, showing that Biden profited from Hunter Biden's business dealings. What did you make of that?
Very interesting. I mean, Ken Buck is a conservative, as you mentioned, and he's a unique cat. He speaks his mind. He thinks that the House Republican majority should be talking about the economy and bread and butter issues, and certainly 18 Republicans who represent districts that Biden won a couple years ago, I think, would agree with him. And Buck is now taking some heat, and he could face a primary challenge if he stays in Congress, but there's a lot of speculation about his future. This is going to be a rough ride. And remember, this is all leading up to the subpoena of Hunter Biden. And Matt Gaetz, a Republican from Florida, doesn't like Speaker Kevin McCarthy, wants that to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen.
Wow. All right. Well, instead of talking about the migrant crisis, which is clearly at a breaking point on the border, and as you saw with the protests here in New York City and the long lines in Eagle Pass, the disaster declaration there, today's hearing comes as polls show, not surprisingly, a record level of distrust and disgust among Americans for both political parties. 4 times as many Americans have unfavorable views of both parties today than in 2002. And when you watch today's hearing, you might be able to see why. Take a look.
The Republican playbook of running interference for a twice impeached, 4 times indicted white supremacist demagogue.
It's bribery and it's impeachable. Are you going to do something about it? I bet you're not, and that's why you, sir, also need to be impeached.
Mr. Attorney General, it was your FBI that did this.
Mr. Jordan is about 500 days into evading his subpoena, about 500 days. So if we're going to talk about contempt of Congress, let's get real.
Okay, guys, 2 in 3 Americans say they're exhausted when they watch politics. So the top words they use to describe politics, Americans, divisive and corrupt. When you watched a hearing like today's hearing, is it anyone, or they feel that way? You first, Bob.
It is exhausting. You talk to a lot of Americans who don't want to see the matchup of Trump and Biden, the rematch. They're looking for a third option. I think there will be a third option, but the way our political system is right now, it is set up as a two-party system, and the third parties never win. Could history be bucked this cycle? Yes, but don't count on it. And everything is going to be polarizing until we have a new president, which of course was likely going to be an old president.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.